Greetings! In today's video, I'll be taking a look at another nice box from UPCRATE. They kindly offered to send me a second box and I thought it'd be fun. Let's look at what's in this box. Here is everything that came in this one. As a surface to use with the supplies in the box, we have this watercolor paper booklet made by Artspace. It contains 10 sheets of 230 GSM paper. It's a good paper thickness, quite thick. One side has more of a cold press texture, while the other feels more like a back of the paper. It's not mentioned if this paper is cotton, so I expect it to be cellulose. Next, we have a paintbrush from Da Vinci. This is a small flat brush with synthetic hair and a green handle. The handle feels like wood painted with a matte paint. It seems nice and sturdy and the tip is quite springy. This is something I'm not familiar with. The product is called Brush X and is made for UPCRATE, at least in that format. It's a clear liquid and it comes in a small glass bottle with a brush applicator. We are given a 2B pencil in this box, kind of a generic always good to have item, and there's also a pen included, a Sakura Pigma Micron 10, which corresponds to a 0.6mm tip size. The main tools included in this set are, first, 3 tubes of watercolor paints by Van Gogh. We have yellow ochre, turquoise, and indigo. This is a very lovely assortment of colors, in my opinion. The Van Gogh range is a student range of watercolors. Some like it, some don't. They are affordable and they deliver nicely on the colors. The other main tools of this box are these Ecoline brush pen. We get 4 colors: black, cyan blue, yellow ochre, and light yellow. They coordinate well with the watercolors included in the box. They are a soft brush pen with a felt-like tip. Last but not least, we get this box's special booklet, print, and sticker sheet. The booklet has a lot of useful info about the supplies in this box, as well as an interview with the month's featured artist. To test out the contents of the box, this is what I did. Let me go back. Alright, so I first tested all the supplies on this sheet. So these are the Ecoline markers. I tried adding a bit of water on top to see how they reactivate and re-wet with the water. This is the fine liner, the Micron. This is the pencil. And these are the watercolors plus some mixes. And I did a couple more tests. And now that I had this idea of what the color mixes I could make was, I moved on. I sketched out some ideas about what to do on the computer, just quickly. And here it's a bit different since I printed it, but I tried to put in the colors that corresponds to the colors that I can have within this palette of items. And I quickly sketched this composition. And once I had that, I printed it. And then I went back with the supplies and did more tests of how the art supplies handle. So I did tests for the ginkgo leaves, the flowers, the leaves, and all that. And once I was sort of satisfied with this, that's when I took out the paper notebook that came with the box and did the actual composition with the supplies. This is more of a sketchy version in a way. It gave me a good impression of what I like and don't really like of the supplies, so I'll go through that. The supplies, so the Micron pen, no problem with it, I really like it. It's a bit of a big point, but doesn't really bother me. Now on the paper that came with the box, you can see that if I overlay it a bit on the Ecoline, there can be a bit of feathering, just a tiny bit. It's not catastrophic, but it's worth mentioning. Then the Ecoline pens, I think the colors are really nice and vibrant. I don't really like how they behave with water. I don't think they reactivate all that well, because if you look back at my tests, you can see how some of the color can be reactivated, but you'll always have this initial shape that stays there. And colors like the yellow are kind of really pale and hard to see. So a bit of a mixed bag. Also, when I tried to use the black one to add a bit of weight to the lines, it just made a big mess and made big splotchy lines that are not particularly attractive in my opinion. They kind of look moldy a bit. So not the best combo. Like I added these little dots around and they're all super feathery and they all bled quite a lot. So not sure that these would go that well on this paper. You can kind of see the feathering on my test paper too. So I'm not super sold on these quite yet. What else? We have the paints. The Van Gogh paints. I like the color selection. Now, I'm not new to Van Gogh. I'm quite familiar with these. So I had already tested these colors before. They're quite nice. The turquoise is a bit weak in tinting strength, but otherwise it seems to be quite nice. Also, like they mix well together, like perhaps not on this, but you see here these mixes went quite smoothly, and also here I tried a bit of like mixing the colors and it went okay. Like Van Gogh is a student brand, so you have to keep that in mind, but it's a nice student brand. Then we had the 2B pencil. The 2B pencil is quite basic, so really I don't have much to say. It worked well considering it's a basic pencil. Like I was able to overlay it on the watercolor, that worked well, and on the paper. This is the brush that came with the set. I think it's a really nice brush. I'm not sure if everybody got a flat brush like this. It made being precise a bit difficult, which can be a good thing, which can be a bad thing, depends on what you want to do. But yeah, that's a bit of an unusual shape, but it's a really nice like synthetic brush. I think it's probably one of those that you can find in the middle ground between super affordable and decent quality. Now there is one thing you won't see here because I sort of quarantined the thing. Okay, first this is kind of a mix-up, I think, because this is about the Talents Ecoline brush pen, and this is not the Talents Ecoline brush pen, this is the Brush X. These are the brush pen, so I was a bit confused at that, but then when you get here, you have the Ecoline brush pen with the actual Ecoline brush pen. So what that means is that the page about this product is not the right info. And I don't know what's up with this item, but I really didn't like it. It stinks. It's basically bleach in a small bottle with a cap and a small brush. And when I tried it in my test pages. So here, these are the tests I did with the Brush X. So yeah, I opened it. First of all, it sort of leaked everywhere. I don't know how, because I opened it upright. I know what I'm doing technically. So I opened it and it went all over my hands, and then I lightly used it, and it's basically just bleach. So over the black you still have this ghostly yellow spot. It doesn't completely bleaches out the ink. On the blue it bleaches it back to the paper, but that's all it is. It's just like some sort of chlorine or bleach, and I really didn't like it. Personally, I didn't like it. About this brush also, it's synthetic, as you can see, and it's really not absorbent. So if you want to make big areas of watercolor or really juicy watercolors, this is not the best brush for it. It's fine for smaller areas and probably really good for like gouache or acrylic, but for watercolor I found it a bit hard to use considering how I like to use watercolor. So regarding Van Gogh, like I said, I'm familiar with this brand, I like it, but they are weird in the sense that they dry well in the pan, they keep well in the pan, but when you re-wet them, if you add a lot of water in your pan, it gets really goopy. It has a bit of consistency issue. That's not just this color, that's kind of all of Van Gogh in my experience. It re-wets and it has a bit of a jelly feeling to it. If you want to use it from a re-wet pan, you kind of need to make sure you have a palette next to it so you can sort of mix really well the paint with your brush before applying it to the paper. It's hard to use it straight from a dry pan to the paper. I know that not a lot of people do that, but in this case it's especially hard. Regarding the Ecoline brush pens, these I've seen them used for lettering and they do really well for that. As for art, I don't really know how to use them properly, I guess, to make the best of them. If I use them over the fine liner, they reactivated the fine liner, which is really curious because this kind of fine liner is really waterproof usually. So there's something in the ink here that messes with the composition of the ink in the fine liner. And also, I really didn't like how these behaved on watercolor paper. It's like the paper is too absorbent. So it drags in a lot of ink and then it feathers, which is not an effect that I was looking for or seeking. So that was not what I wanted. So I think that overall, all of these supplies are really nice, but I'm a bit puzzled by the combination of them. Now, I know that these are supplies selected by a specific artist, and that's the kind of stuff they use in their practice, which is perfectly fine. But whereas the other box I've tried from UPCRATE was perhaps a bit more easy to use regardless of your practice, I found that this one was sort of harder to use because I didn't quite know how to make all these items fit with what I like to do. I felt like the previous box I tried had more basic items, like primary colors, paint, paper, brushes, you know, that kind of stuff that's really, really easy to adapt. Whereas this stuff, I found it a bit harder to combine everything and make sense of it. Now, as you can see the featured artist's work, I can totally see how they use these supplies. Like the brush pen make for nice flat colors in their work. And then they can use the brush X, like the bleach solution, to make details on the ink. And the fine liner and the black brush pen, and then come back with the pencil to do the shading. And also have some soft watercolor areas around the picture. So for their art styles, it works really, really well. Like definitely, you can see it from this very cute print. But for me, I was a bit puzzled and nonplussed, and it kind of took me by surprise. Now I'm gonna keep these in the vicinity because I definitely want to figure out what I can do with them. But yeah, just as it is, unless I want to copy exactly what this person does, which is not a good idea, it's going to take me a bit of a brainstorm period to figure out how to use everything. Like I said, this brush might end up in my gouache palette, these paints with my other Van Gogh colors. Now these I am not entirely sure, but I'll figure something out, perhaps on a smoother paper or a less absorbent paper. This is good for everything. It's waterproof, so I can use it to draw and then watercolor my drawing. So yeah, like I can use everything separately. I just don't really know how I can use them together and match what I like to do in terms of art. So I guess that's it. Long story short, lovely items, but a box that is more difficult to figure out than the other I had tried before. I would like to thank UPCRATE for sending me these boxes again. Thank you so much. It's always a good challenge to try and work with everything in the box. If you want to know more about UPCRATE, I'll have links in the description, and you can check out their past boxes, the current boxes, or the subscription model, how it all works. And thank you so much guys for watching this video. See ya in the next one. Bye bye.